January 3rd, 2026, the beginning of a new year, and the world witnesses something shocking. The United States of America, widely considered the most powerful and influential country on earth, deploys its elite special forces, the Delta Force, into the South American nation of Venezuela. In a swift overnight operation, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, along with his wife, is arrested.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has spent the night behind.
No, Venezuela is a country known for holding the largest oil reserves in the world. But in terms of military and global power, it simply cannot stand as a real match against a superpower like the USA. And after this incident, the world saw something even more disturbing. All the so-called international laws, global principles, and the rules created by oversight institutions proved meaningless. A powerful nation acted on its own terms. No one was consulted, no one was heard, no one could stop it. But friends, we are not here to discuss the political relationship between Venezuela and the United States, because this video is part of our ancient Indian series. I began with this example for one reason only, to remind you that power is a kind of intoxication. And throughout history, the powerful have always crushed the weak. Whether it is a powerful individual dominating a weaker person, a powerful state suppressing a smaller one, or a mighty empire overwhelming a lesser empire, it has happened regardless of laws, treaties, or moral principles. The strong have always imposed their will, stripped others of their rights, and forced them into submission. And friends, this is not just a story of today. This has been the rule of the world for thousands of years, century after century, era after era. In the same way, if we turn our attention to ancient India, we realize that this very principle of power was at work there as well, because the first major foreign invasion into ancient India was not carried out by some local kingdom. It was launched by one of the most powerful empires of that era, the Persian Empire. Now the real questions are, when did the Persian rulers invade India? How did these invasions take place? And under which Persian kings were these campaigns carried out? As a result of these attacks, which regions of India became part of their vast imperial domain? And most importantly, what were the true reasons behind the Persian invasion of India? Well friends, you will discover the entire story in this video, so stay with us all the very end. So how are you doing friends? The 6th century BC was a time of massive transformation across the world. Yet India at that moment was still somewhat distant from the direct clashes of the great global powers. It was absorbed in its own internal world. Meanwhile, in the West, the centers of power were shifting rapidly, and from the region of Iran, from Persia, a new empire was rising. An empire that was not merely expanding through conquest but was reshaping the entire structure of imperial rule. In 559 BC, Cyrus the Great ascended the throne, and from the very earliest days of his reign, it became clear this was not a ruler who would remain confined to his ancestral. His vision was not limited to defending borders. His eyes were set on trade routes, marketplaces, and directions of the future. In 550 BC, under the rule of Cyrus, the conquest of the Median Empire gave Persian power the shape of a true empire for the very first time. The Median Empire roughly covered the regions of present-day northern and western Iran, including areas like Hamdan, Kurdistan, and Azerbaijan. This victory opened the gates for the Persian toward the mountainous heartlands of Iran and even the directions of Central Asia. This was the moment when Persia stepped out of being a small regional state and laid the foundation of a vast imperial order. And friends, this was not merely the capture of a territory, it was the beginning of a grand political unification, one that gave the Persians the confidence to expand westward. The next major expression of this confidence came in 547-46 BC with the conquest of Lydia. Lydia was located in what is now western Turkey around the regions of Sardis. And with this victory, Persian control extended into the world of gold coinage and Mediterranean trade. The wealth, minting systems, and commercial networks of Lydia poured immense resources into the Persian treasury. No, the Persian Empire was no longer just a military force, it had become an economic superpower as well. Then, in 539 BC, came the conquest of Babylon. This victory made the Persians heirs to one of the greatest civilizational centers of the ancient world. Babylon was situated in modern day Iraq, around Baghdad and its surrounding areas. And with Babylon came the incorporation of the entire region of Mesopotamia along with Syria and the Levant. Present day Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel all fell under Persian authority. By this stage, the western and northern structure of the empire was almost complete. But if we look at the map closely, one gap becomes clearly visible. To the east stretched a vast world, and within that world, the most significant and tempting region of all was India. But the true turning point came in 522 BC, when Cyrus' grandson Darius I ascended the throne. Darius was not merely a conqueror, he was an extraordinary administrator. For the first time, he reorganized the empire into provinces known as satrapies. This highly structured and disciplined system gave Darius the confidence to take a calculated step eastward. Between 518 and 516 BCE, Persian campaigns in Bactria and Sogdia, regions that correspond to parts of modern-day Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, along with the conquest of present-day Afghanistan, brought the Persian armies practically to the very gates of India. The mighty Hindu Kush mountains were no longer seen as an impassable natural barrier. They had become a route that the Persian military machine could cross. And friends, this was the moment when India for the very first time came directly into the sights of a global empire. In 516 BC, Darius I ordered the march toward India. The Persian forces began moving through the passes of Khyber and entered the valley of Indus River. And here one crucial point must be understood. This invasion was not entirely based on the sword alone. Many local rulers were already entangled in conflicts among themselves, and in front of Persian imperial power, they chose submission over resistance. As a result, several regions came under Persian control without the need for major battles. Gandhara, which corresponds to the important region of present-day Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, was immensely valuable for the Persians, both geographically and militarily. Interestingly, there is little evidence of strong resistance here, which suggests that the local elite likely accepted Persian supremacy, probably on the condition that their internal affairs would face minimal interference. In the same way, within the Indus Valley, the Persian forces gained control over river routes and key commercial centers. And once these strategic networks were secured, the entire region was gradually absorbed into the Persian imperial system almost automatically. After these conquests, these territories were formally organized into Persian provinces. From here, tribute and taxes began to be collected regularly. Local rulers were allowed to remain in place, but they were no subordinate to the Persian king. This administrative model was something entirely new for India because for the first time an external empire chose not to impose complete direct rule. Instead, it established indirect control governing through local authorities while maintaining imperial dominance. And it is important to understand that Persian power was not only in its weapon but also in its psychological impacts. Just imagine an empire that was the largest of its time, stretching across three continents, covering an area estimated between 5.5 to 8 million square kilometers. The very thought of standing against such a colossal force was enough to make many local rulers stand. Thus, these western regions of India became part of the Persian Empire, largely through political realism, not necessarily through total military defeat. Historians also note something very significant. Darius did not intentionally advance much deeper beyond the Indus River, but rather the control of its most fertile, commercial, and strategically vital zone. For the Persian Empire, the Indus Valley held the same importance that Egypt held because of the Nile, a major source of wealth, grain, and trade. The famous Greek historian Herodotus writes that this conquered Indian territory became the 20th province of the Persian Empire, and the tax collected from it was several times greater than what was gathered from any other province. During the reign of Darius I, the Persian Empire was ruling over nearly 45% of the world's population, and these Indian regions had now become the easternmost provinces of that vast imperial structure. It had firmly entered the arena of international politics, so the Persian advance toward India should not be seen as just another ordinary invasion. It was in many ways a historical turning point. Persian rule continued over the western parts of India all the way until the defeat of Darius III at the hands of Alexander the Great, and it was through this very route that Alexander later entered India. Friends, if you want to learn more about Alexander's invasion of India, you can watch our video right here. Now the question is, after conquering so much of the world, what drove the Persian rulers to march into a relatively peaceful region like India? What were the real motivation behind this expansion? Let us uncover them one by one. 1. Wealth and resources. Friends, northwestern India, especially Gandhara and the Indus region, was an extremely prosperous and resource-rich land. In fact, one of the most advanced civilizations of the ancient world, the Indus Valley civilization, had flourished in this very zone, and that alone highlights the natural and economic importance of the region. So Darius I specifically targeted this area, and from it he extracted a significant amount of wealth in the form of tribute and taxation. In fact, historians mention that the revenue collected from this single Indian province was so enormous that it amounted to nearly one-third of the total wealth gathered from all the other 19 provinces combined. Number 2. Political fragmentation. The second major reason that attracted the Persian rulers towards this region was its political fragmentation. There was no single unified empire in northwestern India at that time. Instead, the land was divided into many small kingdoms, and these kingdoms were often locked in constant conflict with one another. This internal division created the perfect opportunity for the Persians to intervene, invade, and bring the region under their control. Number 3. Imperial expansions. The third major reason was simply imperial expansions, because no matter how vast an empire becomes, its rulers always seek to expand further, to acquire more land, more influence, and more power. As we said earlier, power is an intoxication, and once an empire begins to grow, stopping becomes almost impossible. This is exactly what the Persian rulers like Cyrus and Darius I did. They first expanded westward, and once the western front was secured, they turned their gaze eastward towards India. Number 4. Strategic location and trade routes. The fourth major reason was the strategic importance of this region. Northwestern India was positioned along critical trade routes, and through these routes, large scale commerce flowed between Central Asia, Persia, and wider ancient world. Controlling this region meant controlling trade, and controlling trade meant strengthening the empire economically. So the strategic geography of the Indus region made it too valuable to ignore. Friends, now an important question arises. The Persian rulers governed this region for nearly 200 years, but did they only exploit it? Did they merely collect taxes and tribute, or did they also establish administrative systems that would shape the political and governmental structures of this region for generations to come? So let us now explore what new models of rule and administration the Persian Empire introduced into this part of ancient India. Ancient India did not gain from the Persian Empire only the experience of foreign dominations or territorial control. It also learned something far more significant: how to run a state, how to organize power, and how to connect society to a larger imperial system. The Persians were the first to introduce India to a formal administrative structure. Under the system of satrapy, territories were divided into provinces, and over each province, a strap, a royal governor, was appointed. This governor supervised the military, law, and the collections of revenue. Along with this system emerged a structured traditions of taxation and tribute, one that transformed state income from personal extraction into an institutional framework, and such administrative order require written documentation. Therefore, the Persian model of written governance, especially through the use of Aramaic, strengthened the traditions of official record, royal decrees, and accounting practices in the region. Monarchy was no longer just raw power, it became a symbol of prestige, protocol, and imperial authority, where the throne, the royal seal, the court rituals began to represent sovereignty. A new concept of law and order also emerged, one in which local customs were preserved but central authority was acknowledged. And this balance became the foundation of a stable state. In architecture, Persian influence introduced the trend of columned structure, stone carving, and royal monuments, traces of which later become clearly visible in the famous pillars of Ashoka. Military, the Persians demonstrated the strength of an organized multi-ethnic imperial army, teaching Indian rulers the importance of discipline, command structures, and logistics. And alongside all of this, Persian royal roads and secure trade routes connected India to international commerce. This was the our video. I hope you like it. If you like it, please subscribe this channel.